When my 8-year-old daughter, Sienna, burst through my apartment door at 2 a.m., barefoot and shaking, I thought I was having a nightmare. Then she asked me a question that made my blood freeze. "Mommy, should I tell the police about the other kids in Grandpa's basement?" I dropped the coffee mug I'd been washing. It shattered against the kitchen floor, brown liquid spreading across the white tiles like blood. But I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I just stared at my little girl standing in our doorway, her pink nightgown torn at the shoulder, her feet leaving small red prints on our carpet. "Sienna, baby, what are you talking about? How did you get here?" She held up the emergency key I'd given her on a rainbow lanyard, the one we'd practiced using together a dozen times. Her small fingers were wrapped around it so tight her knuckles had gone white. I walked from Grandpa Roland's house. The man with the truck brought me there, but he forgot to lock the upstairs door. My name is Vera, and 3 hours ago I'd tucked my daughter into her own bed in this very apartment. I'd kissed her forehead, told her I loved her, and went to wash the dinner dishes. She'd been wearing her favorite pajamas with the unicorns on them. Now she stood before me in a nightgown I'd never seen before, and her unicorn pajamas were nowhere to be found. What man with the truck? "Baby, you were in your room sleeping." "No, Mommy. He came through my window. He said you sent him to get me for a surprise at Grandpa's house. I knew you didn't because you taught me about tricky people, but he grabbed me anyway." The room started spinning. I forced myself to move, to run to her, to pull her into my arms. She was ice cold and trembling like a leaf in a storm. Her hair smelled wrong, like cigarette smoke and something else, something chemical and sharp that made my stomach turn. "We're calling the police right now," I said, already reaching for my phone. "Wait, Mommy. First I need to tell you about Milo and Destiny and baby Theo. They're still there, in the special room." I pulled back to look at her face. My daughter, my brave, beautiful daughter who loved to sing Taylor Swift songs in the shower and named every stuffed animal she owned, was looking at me with eyes that had aged a decade in one night. "Who are Milo and Destiny and Theo?" "The other kids in Grandpa's basement, behind the regular basement. Milo is 6 and he's been there the longest. He said his mom is probably looking for him. Destiny is 7 and she cries a lot. Baby Theo doesn't talk yet, but I think he's maybe 3 or 4. My father, Roland, was supposed to be at his apartment across town. He lived there with my stepmother, Nadine. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near my daughter. We'd had an agreement, a court-documented agreement, after what happened 3 weeks ago. No contact, no visits, no exceptions. Sienna, are you saying there are other children locked in Grandpa Roland's basement right now?" She nodded, and a tear rolled down her cheek. "Nadine brings them sandwiches, but only once a day. Peanut butter, no jelly. Milo is allergic to peanuts, but he eats them anyway because he's so hungry. His face gets all puffy, but he says it's okay." I was already dialing 911, my fingers shaking so hard I had to try 3 times to hit the right numbers. While the phone rang, I kept one arm tight around Sienna, feeling her heartbeat against mine, rapid as a hummingbird's wings. 911, what's your emergency? My daughter was kidnapped from our apartment and taken to my father's house. She escaped, but she says there are other children trapped in his basement. Please send help immediately. The address is 4827 Oakwood Drive. Ma'am, I'm dispatching units now. Is your daughter safe? She's with me. She's injured. Her feet are bleeding. She walked 3 miles barefoot to get home. We're sending an ambulance to your location as well. Can you tell me your address? I gave them our information, but my mind was racing ahead. Other children. How long had this been happening? How had I missed it? I'd been so focused on protecting Sienna from my father that I'd never imagined there were others. Mommy, Sienna whispered against my shoulder. I promised Milo I'd get help. I promised I wouldn't forget about them. You did good, baby. You did so good. Help is coming. But even as I said the words, holding my daughter in our kitchen while sirens wailed in the distance, I knew our lives had just shattered into before and after. Before this moment when evil wore my father's face, and after when my 8-year-old daughter became the bravest person I'd ever known. Life wasn't supposed to turn out this way. 3 months ago, I was drowning in bills, exhaustion, and the kind of desperate math that keeps single mothers awake at night. 29 years old, working double shifts at Riverside Hospital as a nursing assistant, then racing across town to waitress at Denny's on weekends. Every dollar counted. Every hour mattered. My ex-husband Colton had vanished to Texas 6 months earlier with his 22-year-old girlfriend, leaving nothing behind but divorce papers and a disconnected phone number. "Mommy, why don't I have a dad anymore?" Sienna had asked me one night as I tucked her in. "Sometimes adults make choices that hurt, baby. But you have me, and I'm never going anywhere. Promise?" Promise. I kept that promise, but barely. Some weeks, Sienna ate mac and cheese 4 nights straight, while I survived on hospital cafeteria leftovers and black coffee. The childcare costs were killing me. Mrs. Chen next door watched Sienna during my night shifts, but she was 73 and getting frail. I needed another solution. That's when my father Roland called. "Vera, sweetheart, I've been clean 6 months now." His voice sounded different on the phone, clearer than I'd heard it in years. "I know I wasn't there for you growing up. I know I chose the pills over everything. But I'm different now. Nadine and I got married. We have this big house on Oakwood Drive, 4 bedrooms, a real backyard with a swing set." "Good for you, Dad." I kept my voice flat, uninterested. He'd been clean before. It never lasted. "I want to help with Sienna. Let me watch her when you're working nights. No charge, obviously. Just let me be the grandfather I should have been from the start." "Absolutely not. Vera, please, I'm in AA. I have a sponsor named Terry. Nadine keeps me accountable. I haven't just quit the pills. I've rebuilt my entire life. At least meet us for coffee. See for yourself." I should have hung up, should have trusted the voice in my head screaming that leopards don't change their spots. But when you're suffocating, even poisoned air looks breathable. We met at a Starbucks downtown. Roland looked healthier than he had in years. His hands were steady. His eyes were clear. Nadine seemed nice enough, quiet but smiling, wearing a cross necklace and sensible clothes. They showed me photos of their house, the spare bedroom they decorated with princess themes. "This could be Sienna's room when she stays over," Nadine said softly. "I never had children of my own. I'd love to be a proper grandmother to her." "You're not her grandmother," I said quickly. "Step-grandmother, then. The point is, we want to help. You're struggling, Vera. Let us make it easier." My friend Deandra thought I was insane when I told her I was considering it. "Your father? The same man who stole your college fund for OxyContin? That was 8 years ago. People change." "Do they, though? When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." But desperation has a way of rewriting history. I introduced Sienna to them slowly. First a lunch at McDonald's, then a trip to the park. Roland was patient, kind, everything he'd never been during my childhood. He taught Sienna card tricks. Nadine baked cookies with her. They seemed like the grandparents every kid deserved. After a month of supervised visits, I agreed to let Sienna stay with them during my Friday night shifts, just 6 hours. Roland would pick her up at 4 p.m., and I'd get her at 10 p.m. when my hospital shift ended. "You sure about this?" Mrs. Chen asked when I told her the new arrangement. "It's family," I said, as if that word meant something sacred instead of what it really was, just genetics and shared dysfunction. The first few weeks were perfect. Sienna came home chattering about Grandpa's funny stories, Nadine's chocolate chip cookies, the cartoons they watched together. She was happy. For the first time in months, she was genuinely happy, and I could work without the crushing guilt of leaving her with an elderly neighbor or the panic of paying for childcare I couldn't afford. I started sleeping better, eating regular meals. I even enrolled in an online community college course, thinking maybe I could finally finish my nursing degree. The thick fog of survival mode began to lift. "See," Roland said one evening when I picked up Sienna, "I told you I've changed. This is what family does. We help each other." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe that my father had finally chosen love over addiction, that Sienna could have the grandfather I'd always wished for, that maybe our broken family could heal into something beautiful. I should have known that broken things don't heal. They just find new ways to cut you. Everything changed that Tuesday evening in October. I'd picked up Sienna from Roland's house after my day shift, and she slipped into the back seat without her usual bounce. No running to the car, no excited chatter about her day, just silent, mechanical movements as she buckled her seatbelt. "Baby, you okay?" I asked, adjusting the rearview mirror to see her face. "Grandpa had friends over," she said, staring out the window at nothing. "That's nice. Did you meet them?" "They gave me candy, said I was pretty." The way she said it made my skin crawl, flat, rehearsed, like she was reciting lines from a play she didn't want to be in. What kind of friends? Just friends. Can we go home now? That night, Sienna barely touched her spaghetti. She went to bed without asking for a story. When I checked on her an hour later, she was wide awake, staring at the ceiling. "Sweetheart, did something happen at Grandpa's today?" "No, Mommy. Everything was fine." But everything wasn't fine. Over the next week, my vibrant, silly daughter transformed into someone I didn't recognize. She stopped singing in the shower. She didn't want to play with her dolls. When I mentioned Friday was coming and she'd see Grandpa again, she dropped her orange juice glass. It shattered across the kitchen floor, and she just stood there, shaking. "I don't want to go," she whispered. "Why not?" "I thought you loved going to Grandpa's house. Please don't make me go, Mommy. Please." "Sienna, what's wrong? Did something happen? Did someone hurt you?" She started crying then, huge gasping sobs that shook her whole body. "Grandpa said I can't tell. He said you need the money for our apartment, and if I tell, we'll be homeless and have to live in the car, and it will be all my fault." I felt something inside me break and reshape into pure rage. I called Mrs. Chen, begged her to watch Sienna for an hour, and drove to Roland's house fast enough to leave tire marks at every red light. Nadine answered the door in her apron, flour on her hands like she'd been making bread, the perfect homemaker image that now made me sick. "Vera, we weren't expecting you. Is everything all right? Where's my father?" "Oh, honey, he's at his meeting." Every Tuesday and Thursday." "I need to talk to him about Sienna. Now." Her smile faltered slightly. "Kids make up stories, Vera." "You know that. Whatever she said, I'm sure it's just her imagination running wild." "I didn't tell you. She said anything?" "Well, you seem upset." "I just assumed." I pushed past her into the house. It smelled like cinnamon and lies. Everything was too perfect, too staged, like a movie set of a happy home. I waited in the living room for 2 hours until Roland finally came home, and I knew immediately he hadn't been at any meeting. He reeked of whiskey and cigarettes, his eyes glassy, that familiar stumble in his walk I remembered from my childhood. "Vera, what a surprise," he said, trying to sound sober and failing. "Kitchen. Now." Nadine followed us, hovering in the doorway like a guard dog. I faced my father across the kitchen island, the same rage I'd felt as a teenager when he'd missed my graduation for a dealer appointment burning through me now. "What's happening when Sienna stays here? She's terrified to come back." "You're being dramatic, just like your mother was, always making mountains out of molehills." "Don't you dare bring up Mom. She left because of you. Now answer me. She said your friends were here, that they gave her candy, that they called her pretty. So I can't have friends now? I'm doing you a favor, Vera. Free babysitting while you run around playing nurse. Maybe show some gratitude instead of making accusations." "If you've let anyone near my daughter, I swear to God, Roland." He leaned forward then, his coffee and whiskey breath making me step back. "She's my granddaughter, my blood. That makes her my property too. I can introduce her to whoever I want. I can have whoever I want in my own home." "Property? She's a child. She's my child. And you're broke. You can barely keep the lights on. You need me, Vera. So stop asking questions you don't want answers to, or you can find another babysitter. Good luck affording one." Nadine nodded from the doorway, her cross necklace catching the light. "Your father knows what's best, always has. Maybe if you were a better mother, you wouldn't need our help. But here we are." I grabbed Sienna's overnight bag from the corner, my hands shaking with fury. "She's never coming back here." "We'll see about that," Roland called after me. "When you can't pay rent next month, you'll come crawling back. They always do." I snatched Sienna from their house that night and never went back. The drive home, I kept checking the rearview mirror, expecting Roland to follow us, but the road stayed empty. Sienna sat in the back seat, clutching her stuffed rabbit, Mr. Hoppy, like a life preserver. "You're never going back there," I told her. "Never. I promise." "But Grandpa said you need money. He said we'll be homeless. Baby, I'd rather live in a cardboard box under a bridge than let you near that house again. Money is just money. You're everything." That night, after Sienna finally fell asleep, I called in sick for my weekend shifts and started making phone calls. First to Child Protective Services. The caseworker who answered sounded tired, like she'd heard it all before. "Do you have physical evidence of abuse?" she asked. "My daughter is traumatized. She's terrified. Isn't that enough?" "I understand your concern, but without physical evidence or witnesses, it becomes a he said she said situation. We can open a file, start an investigation, but these things take time." "How much time?" "Could be weeks, could be months. Document everything. Take photos if there are any marks. Keep a journal of behavioral changes. We'll send someone out within 7 to 10 business days." 7 to 10 business days, as if predators operated on government schedules. I hung up and called a lawyer, then another, then 3 more. They all said the same thing. Without proof, I had nothing. Roland had rights as a grandparent. The fact that he'd mentioned having friends over wasn't illegal. The candy wasn't illegal. Calling a child pretty wasn't illegal. "But I know something happened," I told the 5th lawyer. "Knowing and proving are different things," she replied. "Start documenting. Build a case. In the meantime, don't let her near him." For 2 weeks, I became a detective in my own life. I installed new locks on our windows and a security camera I couldn't afford. I taught Sienna a new safety plan, made her memorize my work number, Deandra's number, and 911. We practiced scenarios. What to do if someone comes to the door, what to do if someone approaches her at school, what to do if she sees Grandpa or Nadine anywhere. "Am I in trouble, Mommy?" she asked during one of our practice sessions. "No, baby, you're the bravest girl I know. We're just being extra careful now." I documented everything in a purple notebook. Every nightmare, every flinch when men walked too close at the grocery store. Every time she wet the bed, which hadn't happened since she was 4. I took photos of the bruises on her arms that looked like fingerprints, though she couldn't remember how she got them. The journal grew thick with evidence that meant nothing in legal terms, but everything in mother terms. Mrs. Chen watched Sienna while I worked, but she was struggling. "Vera, I'm too old for this. She wakes up screaming. She needs more than I can give." I was running out of options and money. My credit cards were maxed. My savings account had $12. Rent was due in a week, and I'd already sold everything valuable except my car, which I needed for work. That's when I made the hardest decision of my life. I went to my boss at the hospital and told her everything. Dr. Patricia Reeves had always been kind but professional. I'd never told her anything personal beyond scheduling conflicts. "I need help," I said, sitting in her office with my hands shaking. "My father is dangerous, my daughter is traumatized, and I'm about to lose everything trying to protect her." She listened without interrupting, then made 3 phone calls. By the end of the day, I had a new schedule with better hours, information about the hospital's emergency employee, assistance fund, and the name of a trauma counselor who worked with children on a sliding scale. "We protect our own here," Dr. Reeves said. "You should have come to me sooner." I enrolled Sienna in therapy with Dr. Chen, a child psychologist who specialized in trauma. After 3 sessions, Dr. Chen pulled me aside. "Vera, something significant happened to your daughter. She's showing all the classic signs. We need to keep her safe while we work through this." I was building our new life brick by brick, wall by wall, anything to keep the monsters out. I thought I was succeeding. Sienna was starting to smile again. She'd laughed at a cartoon the night before. Progress felt possible. Then came that night. I'd tucked her in at 8 p.m., double-checked the window locks, turned on her new nightlight that projected stars on the ceiling. I'd kissed her forehead, told her I loved her, and went to wash the dinner dishes. At 2 a.m., everything I thought I knew about protecting my daughter shattered when she burst through our front door, having escaped something worse than my darkest imagination. I was already dialing 911 when Sienna said the words that changed everything. "Mommy, should I tell the police about the other kids in Grandpa's basement?" The phone nearly slipped from my hand. I stared at my daughter, standing in our kitchen with bleeding feet and torn clothing, and felt the world tilt off its axis. "What other kids, baby?" the ones in the special room, behind the regular basement. Milo is 6 and he has brown hair like mine. Destiny is 7 and she knows all the state capitals. Baby Theo doesn't talk yet, but I think he's maybe 3 or 4. There's also Amara, but she only came yesterday. Sienna, are you telling me there are other children locked in that house right now? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. They can't get out. The door locks from the outside and there's no windows. Milo said his mom is probably looking for him. He's been there the longest, maybe 2 months. He keeps track by scratching lines on the wall. The 911 operator was speaking, but I could barely hear her over the roaring in my ears. Send everyone, send SWAT, send the FBI. There are kidnapped children at 4827 Oakwood Drive. Multiple children locked in a basement. Ma'am, I need you to stay calm. Officers are en route. Can you provide more details? I put the phone on speaker and knelt beside Sienna. Baby, tell the lady about the room. Sienna's voice was small but clear. It's behind the furnace. There's a regular basement door, then you go down, and behind the big heater thing, there's another door that looks like part of the wall. Grandpa calls it the playroom, but it's not for playing. There's mattresses on the floor and a bucket for bathroom and chains on the wall, but he only uses those when someone's been bad. How did you see this room, sweetheart? The operator asked. Because I was in it tonight. The man with the truck, his name is Jerome. He took me from my bedroom and brought me there. But he was drunk and forgot to lock the upstairs door when he left. I remembered how to undo the inside lock because Milo showed me. He learned it from trying so many times. You got all the children out. No, Sienna sobbed. I couldn't. I'm not strong enough to unlock their door from outside. I tried and tried, but my hands are too small. I told Milo I'd get help. I promised. He made me promise. Within minutes, our apartment was full of police officers. Detective Harmon, a woman with sharp eyes and gentle hands, wrapped Sienna in a blanket while paramedics treated her feet. Another detective was on the phone coordinating the raid. Sienna, this is very important, Detective Harmon said. Is anyone at the house right now? Nadine is always there. She sleeps upstairs. Grandpa might be there or might be at his friend's house. Jerome left after he brought me. The other man, Carl, sometimes stays overnight in the guest room. What other man? Carl has a beard and gives us crackers sometimes. He takes pictures. Detective Harmon's face went rigid. She stepped away, spoke rapidly into her radio. I heard fragments. Multiple suspects, possible trafficking ring, children in immediate danger. They wouldn't let me go with them. Deandra arrived to stay with us, holding my hand as we waited. Sienna fell asleep on the couch, clutching Mr. Hoppy, her face finally peaceful. The clock ticked past 3 a.m., then 4 a.m. Every minute felt like a year. At 5:47 a.m., Detective Harmon called. We got them, all of them. 4 children recovered alive. Your father is in custody, along with Nadine. Jerome Watts was arrested at a motel on Route 50. We're looking for Carl now. The children? Malnourished, traumatized, but alive. Milo Brennan, age 6, missing from Columbus for 11 weeks. Destiny Cole, 7, taken from a playground in Dayton 2 months ago. Theo Martinez, 4, disappeared from his front yard in Cincinnati 6 weeks ago. Amara Phillips, 5, reported missing from Louisville 3 days ago. I collapsed to my knees. 4 families had been living my nightmare. 4 babies had been trapped in my father's house while I'd been fighting to protect just my own. There's more, Vera. We found evidence of others. Photos, videos. This has been happening for at least 6 months. Your daughter didn't just save those 4 children. She's given us evidence that might help us find dozens more. I looked at Sienna sleeping on the couch, her small chest rising and falling, her bandaged feet poking out from under the blanket. My 8-year-old daughter had done what grown adults couldn't. She'd remembered my safety lessons, stayed calm under terror, memorized the other children's names and details, and walked 3 miles barefoot in the dark to save them all. She'd been brave enough to break a promise to her grandfather and strong enough to keep a promise to a 6-year-old boy named Milo, who was counting on her to bring help. The trial lasted 6 months. Every day I sat in that courtroom and learned things about my father that made me wish I could scrub my DNA clean. Roland got life without parole for child trafficking, kidnapping, and crimes I can't even type without my hands shaking. Nadine got 25 years. She cried on the stand, claimed she was a victim too, that Roland forced her. But the prosecutor had receipts, literally. Nadine had purchased the locks, rented the van, bought the mattresses. She'd known every name, every child, every horror. Jerome Watts was already a registered sex offender who'd somehow slipped through the system's cracks. He'll never see freedom again. Carl Fitzgerald, the photographer, was caught trying to cross into Canada with hard drives that led to arrests in 4 other states. What my father had built wasn't just evil. It was an entire network of evil. Sienna testified via closed-circuit video from a safe room with Detective Harmon beside her. She wore her favorite purple dress and held Mr. Hoppy. Her voice never wavered as she told the jury about the special room, about Milo's scratches on the wall, about how Destiny would sing to baby Theo when he cried. "How did you stay so brave?" the prosecutor asked her. "My mommy taught me that even when you're scared, you can still do the right thing. And Milo needed me to be brave." Milo's mother found us outside the courthouse after Roland's sentencing. She grabbed my hands, tears streaming down her face. "Your daughter saved my baby. I'd given up hope. The police said after 48 hours, the chances decrease, and it had been 11 weeks. 11 weeks of not knowing if my son was alive or dead. Your little girl gave me my life back." We hugged in that courthouse hallway while reporters snapped photos, and Milo stood beside his mother, finally safe, finally home. He'd gained weight, started therapy, begun to smile again. He waved at Sienna, who waved back, 2 children connected forever by the worst night of their lives. The state gave us new identities, a fresh start 2 states away. We're in witness protection not because Roland has any power left, but because his network had tentacles we're still discovering. Sometimes I miss our old life, the simplicity of being Vera and Sienna instead of the names we use now. But then I remember that our old life included trusting Roland, and I'm grateful for the chance to build something better. Our new apartment has a security system that would make Fort Knox jealous. Sienna sees Dr. Patricia Chen twice a week, a therapist who specializes in childhood trauma. Some days are harder than others. She still wakes up screaming sometimes. She still checks that windows are locked, doors are secure, that I'm really there. "Mom, do you think the other kids are okay?" she asked me last month, a year after that night. "They're safe now, like us." I still have nightmares sometimes. In them, I can't get the door open. I can't save them. But you did save them. In real life, you saved them all. Dr. Chen says heroes don't always feel like heroes. She says sometimes they just feel scared. Dr. Chen is right. We were making dinner together, our new tradition. She was stirring pasta sauce while I chopped vegetables. Normal things, beautiful, boring, normal things that we'd almost lost forever. "Mom, why did Grandpa do it? Why did Nadine help him?" I'd been dreading this question, but I'd practiced my answer with my own therapist. Some people are broken in ways that make them hurt others. Grandpa was sick, but not the kind of sick that medicine fixes, the kind that makes someone choose evil. And Nadine? Some people see evil happening, and instead of stopping it, they help it. That's its own kind of evil. She stirred the sauce thoughtfully. "I'll never be like them." "No, baby, you won't. You're already exactly who you're supposed to be. Someone who sees people in trouble and helps them. Someone who keeps promises even when they're hard. Someone who walks through hell to save others." Sienna looked up at me with those brave brown eyes that had seen too much but somehow still held hope. "We're going to be okay, aren't we, Mom?" "Yeah, baby. We're going to be more than okay. We're going to be extraordinary. Because that's what you become when you survive hell and save others on your way out. My 8-year-old daughter taught me that. She taught all of us that. The smallest voice in that basement became the loudest roar for justice. The littlest feet walked the furthest to bring help. The youngest heart carried the most courage. Evil thought it could win by preying on the innocent. It didn't count on Sienna remembering their names, their faces, their stories.